Former South African Airways Board Chair Dudu Myeni and Sondolo IT Director Trevor Mathenjwa have been released on 10,000 Rand bail each. The pair have appeared in the Richards Bay Magistrate's Court, charges relating to Bosasa fraud and corruption claims totaling 300,000 Rand. The matter has been adjourned until the 17th of November.
She was arrested this morning and appeared at the Richards Bay Magistrate's Court today. She was processed prior at the police station through arrangement with her lawyers and then appeared today. She has been charged with corruption and fraud. However, her co-accused, Mr. Mathenjwa, stands accused or charged with corruption, and this pertains to gratifications which we're alleging as the investigating directorate that Ms. Dudu Myeni received when she was the chairperson of the chairperson of South African Airways rather. Gratifications to the tune of about 300,000 odd. 200,000 pertains to the security upgrades of her premises situated here in Richards Bay that we are alleging Mr. Trevor Mathenjwa facilitated when he was the director of Sondolo IT, which is a subsidiary or was a subsidiary of Bosasa, which has now been defunct. We are further saying that Mr. Dudu Myeni further received other gratifications from and or Bosasa or any other subsidiaries to the tune of over 107,000, which pertain to hotel accommodations as well as travel and for herself and various others linked to her, while the chairperson of the board of SAA, and that particular SAA or state-owned entity had a policy that those non-executive directors ought to declare those particular gratifications received from any company for transparency's sake. So those are basically the charges and the reasoning for why those two accused were in court and released on bail today.
Were you acting based on the recommendations by Zondo, the then the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice Zondo, who was also investigating the status of the State Capture Commission that was taking place? We had that Zondo also released reports early last year in January saying that the two, especially Myeni, should be charged with fraud and corruption as well.
So it's no secret that the investigating directorate has been looking at corruption that took place in the now defunct or liquidated Bosasa. And that stemmed from many years back, even before the investigating directorate was formulated. It was then authorized in the space of the investigating directorate when it came to being or proclaimed by the president in 2019. So we then started continued investigations that had started in law enforcement within the Hawks and continued those investigations. In terms of coming back to your question, the recommendations from the State Capture Commission, answer a different legal question in terms of a balance of probabilities, while investigations in terms of criminal matters, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the recommendations are a blueprint or a map, but not necessarily what is relied on to bring cases to court. In this matter, yes, it was a map. Yes, independent investigations had already begun in law enforcement. However, those recommendations did give us clear pointers as to where else to look.
So the state alleges Dudu Myeni received corrupt payments of around 300,000 Rand from Bosasa and also security upgrades to a home in Richards Bay that's valued at around 200,000. She was the SAA chairperson between 2012 and 2017 when these alleged crimes took place. Myeni, who is also the former chairperson of the JG Zuma Foundation, is said to have benefited from hotel accommodation and travel expenses for her and persons close to her from Bosasa, facilitated by Blake Travels for over 107,000 Rand between May 2014 and March 2015. We're joined now by political analyst Sandile Swana. Sandile, great to have you with us as always. We don't know what the money was for, and she's denied the claims. Let's be clear about that. But remind us of the many controversial decisions and allegations. She's been accused of various things and accused even of bringing down SAA.
Yes, good evening, Francis. Indeed, as we speak today, Dudu Myeni has been declared by the relevant authorities to be a delinquent director, a person who is not fit to be a company director out of her activities at SAA. Now, I just want to emphasize that the declaration that she is a delinquent director comes after observing her historical behavior, which means she exercised delinquency in SAA for many years before she was declared delinquent. Part of that delinquency was when she forged documents when SAA was trying to negotiate out of expensive, overly expensive transactions with Airbus, and she wanted to divert those transactions into a so-called unknown African entity, this, that, and the other. And those transactions were then denied by the Minister of Finance, Nene, who was then fired for that transactions and many others related to that. Dudu Myeni also was able to squeal, in essence, to identify a whistleblower against her by name, and she has been found guilty of that, and I believe she was fined 120,000. So you are dealing with a person who has no respect for the laws of South Africa, who has no respect for the traditions of Oliver Tambo in the ANC and the dignity of the African National Congress, if it ever had any dignity at all.
All right, let's bring in legal analyst Dr. Tsietsi Ramatsekisa. Doctor, thank you for being with us as well. Can you weigh in here? We have somebody declared a delinquent director. So that's based on her business behavior. Here we have corruption charges, which would involve giving Bosasa something while she was at the helm of SAA. What do you understand about these charges?
Thank you to you and the viewers. Indeed, remember, being declared delinquent is not a criminal offense. It's something that it's just have consequences in terms of role, in terms of leadership roles in companies and so forth, or other businesses. But now I think it is high time that law enforcement and other agencies redeem themselves when it comes to the matters that relate to crime, more particularly issues that have been raised by the state capture. You will agree with me that we have not made much progress in South Africa in terms of pursuing those who have been fingered, those who have been pointed out in terms of the state capture. But this time, I think to Dudu Myeni, it was a matter of time. You remember there are several allegations against her, even though at this moment we are not that much clear when it comes to the precise charges that she is facing. But after we have would have learned of all the charges that she is facing, we will also have to look at the competency and the strength of the NPA, because remember, it is not all about charging people, taking them to court. What people want to see is the end results as to whether people get convicted and they pay for the crimes they've committed.
So, Sandile Swana, let me bring you back in, because the Zondo Commission, I mean, she had to appear and she said she didn't want to incriminate herself. But what came out is that Bosasa was allegedly bribing her and ironically to quash previous MPA investigations. Does this give hope, like the doctor says, that we could see more state capture linked arrests, something many South Africans have been crying out for?
It's not easy to tell, Francis, because on the matter of transactions related to Bosasa, for instance, if there were security upgrades coming from Bosasa to the property of Dudu Myeni, where the Mandashe also got such upgrades, and I think a number of comrades got those. On top of that, these types of gratifications and things like that, benefits, I mean, Bosasa was more like a scuffed in a lunchbox of the comrades over many, many years. And there were comrades themselves were running Bosasa, by the way. The Watson brothers coming from PE, Rebeca now, having participated in the non-racial sports struggle and so on and so forth. So those investigations and charges that are coming out may not necessarily be coming straight out of the State Capture Commission for now. That needs to be made clear, and I don't think, listening to the NPA, they are saying that, in fact, this came out of directly from Zondo, because there were bags of 300,000 Louis Vuitton bags that were discussed, dockets that were given to Dudu Myeni that were then discussed by Bosasa executives and Dudu Myeni at the Sheraton Hotel in Pretoria. We're not hearing anything about those were the things that were discussed. This is something else. I don't think we're there in the core of the state capture prosecutions at this juncture.
Sure, the MPA is suggesting that there was an investigation. So, Doctor, what do you think? Could the Zondo Commission investigation have given extra impetus because more details were coming out of there, or do you think it's not linked?
No, remember, these are two different processes. The investigations that were done and the conclusions in the form of recommendations by the commission itself are not automatically going to be used, or are they not? They are not used in terms of the criminal investigations that are taking place. Remember, the law enforcement agencies have to conduct their own investigations, gather their own evidence, and I understand that the Department of Justice and other, sister departments, they've taken a toll to say that they need to work together with the investigators who were used in the state capture, so that they can help them, so that they have, strong cases against all people who are accused, all people who are accused of corruption or who have been pointed out in terms of the state capture. So it is up to the NPA and other agencies to up their game with regard to, charging all these people and also, prosecuting them successfully, because really it is becoming embarrassing wherein we hear that there are big cases all over the media, and at the end there are no results. Some people are acquitted simply because there is no skills in the NPA, there's no skills in the South African Police Service or other enforcement agencies that need to be hands-on in terms of investigations and so forth.
You're right. We've seen prosecutions, but successful prosecutions is what we need. Let me end with you, Sandile. How significant is this politically? I mean, given her alleged deep involvement in state capture and proximity to the former president, Zuma?
I think for those of us who are observers of these processes, this is significant and very worrying, because you have to assume that Dudu Myeni was actually a deployee of the African National Congress at SAA, having been deployed there by the committee, the deployment committee of the ANC that was chaired by the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is refusing now to release the minutes and records to show exactly who were all the deployees. And indeed, it may well be that the name of Dudu Myeni will feature in the list of people that were personally approved by Cyril Ramaphosa to lead SAA and to then play all the game that she played with the assets of the country in a delinquent fashion over time. So it's a very worrying thing that the ANC has admitted that it is accused, number one, and we are seeing that examples such as Dudu Myeni, that the ANC itself deployed these people to do what they have done.
All right, thank you. Yes, you're right. Linking to that cadre deployment list that the ANC has not handed over, that the DA wants to fight for, currently in the news. That was political analyst Sandile Swana and legal analyst Dr. Tsietsi Ramatsekisa.